Before I start the commentary, I want to say a quick note. As a lot of you might already be aware, I also cross-post each daily comment onto TT. However, as soon as the site went dark on the night of the 18th, I knew something was terribly wrong. I have a lot to say about what happened, but I don't exactly feel safe expressing a lot of my views anymore for obvious reasons. If you don't know, then consider yourself blessed. As a lot of you have probably realized, there's a lot of political stuff that I discuss in books, obvious parallels that I draw between fictional worlds and stuff that's happening right now. It may not be obvious, but that's why I do what I do, to promote media literacy, to teach people how to read between the lines and to see what the author probably intended. I am going to continue to do what I do until I no longer can. I will continue to make videos. I will continue to post on Patreon. I will continue to post on the Tumblr. TT was always supplementary as advertisement for Patreon, and that's all these videos are. However, like a lot of you, I also found a lot of community over on the app, one that I feel has been ripped from me and turned into a soulless mockery of what once was. I don't know how I'll feel about the app in the future, but if you don't already, please subscribe here and get the exact same content that I post on the TT, only delivered once a month instead of daily. I pre-recorded this video on the night of the 20th and then queued up the video after I finished editing it, so if any of this info is somehow out of date, I do apologize. All of that being said, welcome back to another Zero Context Patreon Stock, advertising my Patreon content one out of context theater moment at a time. I was still recovering following my Christmas illness, so I dragged out reading Black Moon a lot longer than I probably should have, but I did finish it up and then started on the Scorch Trials.
Pandora is fidgeting with her philosopher's stone, but Mateus's stance looks noticeably relaxed, like he's comfortable in her company. Sam was like that with Joel at first, and so was Deke with Nishi before the guard realized his feelings were more than friendly. I'd also like to remind her that Matt and Pandora were literally held and tortured together. Of course they have a freaking bond. After all they'd been through, I have no doubt that the two of them could have something real and lasting, but only if Mateus and I can let go of each other. Look, I'm not exactly a big fan of Matt to begin with. But if and I feel like Rose participating in some Olympic level pole vaulting here, if Matt told her he loves her, then I freaking believe him. Unless this is nothing than some cheap ploy to push Matt off to the side with this happy ending simply so that Ro can be with his son. But seriously, girl, you are sabotaging your relationship simply because of Chuck's notes. Trauma bonding through shared torture. My gaze lingers on the last line, your friend. But is Cerner my friend even after everything she said to me, even after betraying me to the Plenum? This is what I'd say if the series had actual depths. Cerna is playing both sides, hoping that when stuff hits the fan, going in either direction, that she'll somehow end up not getting splattered with said stuff. So yeah, she's supporting the Plenum, but also Ro. That one of them is bound to be right about all of this. However, as Ro is quickly uncovering, this double teaming makes Cerner come off as a cold-hearted woman. Pisces is on the cusp of extinction. Our people are being exiled. The Maharad could attack at any moment, but here we are having a royal ball. I don't say it out loud to avoid agitating him further, but I can't help agreeing. I wonder where all this money came from, since I'd gotten the impression that the party's backers were young and idealistic people, not older, wealthy types. This level of opulence feels almost in opposition to the party's philosophy of acceptance and open-mindedness. Okay, she kind of has a point. Unless this is one of those charity fundraiser balls, the money spent on this party could have been better spent on literally anything else. Matthias and I are done, I say, keeping my voice low so no one else can hear. Seeing him with Pandora was painful, but losing him felt more like letting go of the girl I'd once been and the future I wanted to keep believing in. Who are you to say, even I'm done with this fucking bullshit. Look, bitch, if you want to ruin literally every good thing in your life, then that's your business. But stop dragging this miserable story out for so much longer than it even needs to be. She's finished her transition. Want to know what house she's in now? Somehow I know before she says it. Cancer. So the person who doesn't believe in love now looks like she belongs in the house of love. I can't imagine a worse punishment for Corinthy. Actually, Scarlet scrutinizes my face closely. She looks a lot like you. Which would be way more impressive if the series hadn't gone out of its way to establish on multiple occasions the fact that every single person from each planet all looked the same. I'm in love with you, Hassan, only you. I'm sorry, but at the start of this story, I'm pretty sure Ro would have sold her soul to be with Matt forever. Then she saw Pandora and Matt acting friendly towards one another and suddenly decided that Hassan was actually her one true love after all. I'm still on Hassan's side about this. Ro is beyond terrible about all of this, and I seriously hope that she would have learned some sort of lesson, but it's obvious that the author sees nothing wrong with literally any of this, so here we are. How did you meet Scarlett Thorne? She and I have known each other for years. I wasn't going to attend this event, but she asked me to escort her. I guess I needed a break from everything. My skin tingles as he turns to me again, and I couldn't come up with a good reason to say no. How about you simply tell her no, that you don't want to go, and then shut her down when she complains and tries to convince you to go? You don't need a freaking excuse or reason or whatever to not do a thing. No is a complete sentence. And finally, we have a decision on the Pisces problem. The way she says the phrase makes the hairs in my arms stand on end. We've spoken with our sponsors, and the final decision, for now until the situation there is resolved, is to hold off on inviting House Pisces to participate in Black Moon. The experiment hasn't even started yet, and it's already intentionally excluding one of the houses. It's already failed. I pan my gaze around the room, expecting people to protest, and for the first time it occurs to me that there isn't a single Piscean here, which is strange given that the party has been in works for a few months, and the Pisces plague only broke out a week ago. I said what I said about this. This experiment has already failed before it even started.
I think we need to abandon this stupid case and focus on something real, like Pisces myth, says my brother, shattering her silence. I think we should find out more about this party first, says Matthias. Forget about the stupid tomorrow party. It's nothing more than a shiny distraction from the real issues. It will solve nothing because they're not actually interested in unity. And when it eventually fails, they'll point back to Black Moon as proof that unity cannot possibly be reached, even though they didn't even try at all. Suddenly Stan yanks Traxton by his tuxedo collar and shoves him into the wall. I swear to Helios, you'd better leave my sister alone. Matthias grabs my brother's shoulders and pulls him off Traxton, placing himself between them and holding a hand to each of their chests. The Leon grins like he's having a blast. You're pretty feral for a bunch of Cancerans. I dig it. You try having your home planet destroyed and then bounce around from other planet to other planet, half of them getting destroyed because the government refuses to even acknowledge a terrorist threat, and then eventually have it be declared that your people are an illegal people with no actual home and no recognized currency, and see if you don't go a little feral. What if the master is trying to destabilize this side to keep us from psychically seeing what he's planning? I asked. Okay, but let me tell you about the USA's anti-terrorist task force. They don't have psychic abilities, yet they're somehow able to stop terrorists from blowing up the goddamn planet. Why? Because they have other resources other than stars whispering secrets to them and taking copious amounts of drugs. That's what we've been doing for such a long time, and the fact that these morons can't even manage that much is honestly embarrassing. But you and your brother need to slow down with your theories, he says, his jaw tight. You're assuming a lot of things without proof. I would thank him for screaming at about the magical Mary Sue guessing powers, but I think that we all know that they'll be vindicated before too long. I'm tired of this, Grandpa. What are you doing? I demand, reaching out to take Nishi back from Blaze, but Imogen's gun points at my head again. Shut up and come with us willingly, she says, walking over until the gun's cold metal nozzle touches my forehead. Willingly. I don't think that word means what you think it means. I can't understand how you could welcome her back like that. She's Mom, he says, widening his eyes meaningfully. Ro, whatever happened before, whatever mistakes she's made, it doesn't matter anymore. He says this so casually, like she once forgot to feed them breakfast and accidentally left them for a decade. Not that she'd systematically abused her daughter while telling her son that he was worthless trash. The fact that Stan is 4 years older and shouldered a lot of the abuse and fallout of Cassandra's leaving makes Stan's statement even more horrific. Like you, of all people, should be even more wounded by what your terrible mother did to you. If you'd been in my place, you would have spoken up. Her dusky violet eyes met mine. You wouldn't have left the burden for someone else to bear. Except that, isn't that the plot of the entire series? A girl who foresaw death and tried to tell people. They dismissed her and then they raised her up as their sacrificial lamb when their prediction came to pass. Except that when they turned her into a living martyr because her continued correct visions of what was to come weren't lining up nicely with the little isolationist bubble that they'd created. Meanwhile, stuff keeps getting worse and worse. You don't understand what I'm going through, says the girl who was mildly tortured to the girl who lost freaking everything because she went through 1,000,001 things worse than the first girl. I'll have trackers locate on Tara's ship. Everyone's face whips to Skiff, who's broken his usual silence. Straightens will be waiting to arrest her wherever she lands. If she's behind this, we'll know shortly. Okay, but what exactly has she done? Explain it to me like I'm five, because from where I'm sitting, she's funded this immense multi-house planet to be terraformed and for people to experimentally live there. The only reason why they would arrest her is because of a random gut feeling that something is terribly wrong with no actual evidence. And where did Trax even get the info that this was on Tara anyway? He barely said it to Ro before she ran off to this meeting and started flinging more accusations around. It's not so much that I'm team on Tara is innocent, it's more like you guys need actual proof of illegal activity before you freaking arrest somebody. Everyone trusts you, but you trust no one. His eyes widen in surprise. I trust you, Ro, he says in a heavy voice, only when you're the one in control. And this is why I haven't been rooting for them, because he might have seen through her nonsense with men and was the one to break up with her. But she has a goddamn good point right now. The dude is buried in so many secrets, it's hard to tell where the lies end and he actually begins. Is this actually the real Hassan, or is this simply yet another one of his constructs? My brother is pale, his eyes lost. Earl, don't do this. Stan's emotions are so imbalanced that his heart has swung in the extreme opposite, and now pity has gotten the best of his anger. He still wants to think there's good in his former friend. Wait, 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 don't tell me, cries Earl, clasping his hands together as he studies Mom. Is this the Grace matriarch? His yellow eyes grow darkly delighted. Bang up job you did with these two. You could write a book on parenting. I've got your little title right here. How to raise kids with such crippling abandonment issues that they can't even give up on a guy when he's about to murder them. I can't even be angry because he's 100% correct. You're the one who betrayed him 3 million millennia ago. You stole his talisman. I did. Why are you taking synergy from Pisces? Bringing back the 13th house requires synergy from the nearest constellation and a quorum of guardians. And why are you bringing back House Orochimaru, asked Brenda. No, she's kind of got a good point. He destroyed the house all those millennia ago, and now he's suddenly bringing it back, and why now, of all times? However, since I'm certain that the author herself has no idea what the hell is going on, not even her bad guy seems to have a clue as to why he's doing all this, simply to be a mustache-twirling bad guy, I suppose. And above it all, he had one image burned into his memories as strong as a branded mark from a stirring hot iron. His friend Chuck, stabbed in the chest, bleeding, dying as Thomas held him. Thomas knew he would never forget that. But what he said to Teresa was, I'll just go. Just takes a little time, that's all. You're so full of it, she said. Why the hell would you write this and then immediately turn around and call yourself out on your own bullshit? The boys are all awake, staring at the multiple people trying to get into the boys' dorm. The entire thing is giving zombie apocalypse, but the narration will not stop calling them cranks. Nobody knows what's going on, which is probably for the best, considering neither do I. At least I'm not alone in this nonsense. At this point, Minho realizes that there's something written on Eris's neck and goes to investigate. It says, Property of Wicked, Group B, Subject B1, the partner. Eris swears up and down that it hadn't been there earlier, but then the boys all realize that they've been tattooed with numbers. Not all of them had nicknames. Mainly, it's the main characters. Minho is the leader, and Newt is the glue. Nobody knows what to make of Tom's tattoo that only says, To be killed by Group B. He's a little older this time, probably 7 or 8. We'll have to cut deeper with him and the girl. Can their brains handle this? This is so amazing. You know, the flare is rooted inside him. He might die. Or worse, he might live. He hears one last thing, finally something that doesn't make him shiver in disgust or fright. Or he and the others might save us. Save us all. I don't care what the hell happened in society. I want to know what the frick frack paddywhack is that medical ethics went flying out the flipping window. Why the fork is it that they're running experiments on literal children? This dude's shucked in the head, Minho whispered. How would escaping a freaking maze save the human race? I represent a group called Wicked, Ratman continued. I know it sounds menacing, but it stands for World and Catastrophe Killzone Experiment Department. Nothing menacing about it, despite what you may think. Shocked is, one way to put it. Now, no need to worry. The flares take a while to set in and show symptoms, but at the end of these trials, the cure will be your reward and you'll never see the debilitating effects. Not many can afford the cure, you know. This is the last season of America, isn't it, where people have to enter into a murder maze to get life-saving treatments for a disease that can be cured instantly, but they won't, for the disease that was invented by the people who knowingly infected you with it in the first place. The only thing missing here is how all of this is being televised for the 1%'s entertainment. The boys do their best to pack up supplies for their journey, even though they don't have much to carry stuff in. They use cartons, plastic bags for water. Again, they don't have much, but they figure that it's better than nothing. As Tom tries to sleep, he can't help but think about how fucked up that all of this is, if what Ratman said was true about how even Chuck's murder was planned. Winston is alright, if only because he's a named character, and we're running low on those right now. The other boys have been watching with horror. Once the ball rolls off, they're all kind of like, what the Jesus fucking Christ was that? Which I think is fair, because same. He whipped out his sheath and pulled it over himself and wrapped it tightly around his face like an old woman in a shell. How do I look? Like the ugliest skanky girl I've ever seen, Minho responded. You better thank the gods you were born a dude. I would scream out, yay, casual sexism, but this book is somehow still a goddamn sausage fest. The first book doesn't get brownie points for including a singular woman if the author was only going to rip her away from the readers in this book. Well, actually, I have two ideas. One, I think, is those people wicked, whoever they are trying to weed out the best of both groups to use it somehow, maybe even breed us or something like that. What? Thomas was so surprised he almost forgot about the screaming. He couldn't believe anyone would be so sick. Breed us? Come on. After going through the maze and what we saw happen in that tunnel, you think breeding is far-fetched? Give me a break. That's the NSFW spin-off series written under a different name. Although now that I think about it, if this is the author's attempt to write dystopia action adventure, I'd sure hate to see how he writes corn with a P. Like the epitome of brother. Ugh. How could you do that? How could you just come out there and take off like that? How could you come out of there and take off like that without explaining anything? Since when is that how we do things, you slinthead? I'm sorry, but if somebody comes running as fast as they can from a building while screaming at you to run and then runs off for another 2 fucking hours, jeez, my dude, read the goddamn room. They start moving, but discuss what might await them in the city. They eventually decide that zombies are probably a lot easier to deal with than the grievers, which I suppose is fair enough, but I feel like this is going to be a massive case of famous last words. Join my Patreon as if you remember to access all of the same amazing content you love on Tumblr. However, for only $1 a month, you can join my Patreon and unlock all of this month's book snark, as well as early access to my free daily snark. I'll see you next month, guys.